Okay, family, let's do the bracha quickly before we open up God's Word. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan Torah. Amen. Yes, so the Lord God, King of the universe, He gives us the Torah of truth. Okay. Pesach. So last week we discussed what? We didn't even get to Passover. You said Passover. Okay, we got up to, we studied the history and how we got up to the point that they were sitting in Egypt. Okay, we remember the story about Joseph and how he was a foreshadow of the Messiah. Alright, and now we're going to get into the point of as Moses is meeting, remember he met with God at the burning bush, he gave him 3 excuses, God gave him 3 solutions. And he said he was going to bring with you, but he gave him also a couple of signs. Right, can you remember the signs that he was given? Before that, how would you first know that God is going to do what he said he was going to do? He told Moses something specific. He said, you're going to bring them back and worship on the mountain that he was talking to God on. He said that was the first confirmation for him. He said, when this comes to fruition, you notice that I have done everything that I said I was going to do. The complete cycle for Moses is about getting back to the mountain. Well, those are the promises in Exodus 6 and 7, right? Or 6, verse 6 or 7. But he said he's going to bring them through, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to free them, he's going to rescue them, he's going to redeem them, and he's going to take them to be his own. Okay? But he sends Moses and he says, look, he says, well, what happens if they don't really want to believe me? And then he gave them 2 signs. The staff that gets thrown down and it becomes a snake, right? So the word there is nachash, alright? Which he shows to which group?
The Egyptians, but to the magicians.
The word changes slightly. It's quite interesting. Alright? So he gets in and he's going to show him that he's going to show him the nachash. No, let's just go there. It's in Exodus 4. Let's go to Exodus 4. So you guys can read what God said and not listen to what Francis said. Exodus 4. Come on. Alright. I'm going to read from verse 1. Moshe replied, but I'm certain they won't believe me and they won't listen to what I say because they'll say, Adonai did not appear to you. Adonai answered him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a staff. He said, throw it on the ground. And he threw it on the ground and it turned into a snake. Now the word there is nachash, okay, the Hebrew word for snake. And Moshe recoiled from it. Then Adonai said to Moshe, put your hand out and take it by the tail, and he reached out with his hand and took hold of it, and it became a staff in his hand. This is so that they will believe that Adonai, the God of the forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzhak, and the God of Yaakov has appeared to you. Furthermore, Adonai said to him, now put your hand inside your coat. He put his hand inside his coat, and he took it out, and his hand was leprous as white as snow. What's the Hebrew word there? Tza'arat. Okay? Tza'arat in Hebrew has that connotation, like I said to you guys before. This is not what they call, I believe it's Henningsen's disease. It has a different criteria completely. This is to show them that there's something manifesting on the outside, but the sin is actually the problem. You've got to look deeper. It's something that's wrong with your heart. I'm giving you something external to show you that there's something wrong. Okay? So, let me ask you something. Why would God do that?
He looks at the heart.
Okay, he looks at the heart, but why would he give you an affliction? Right, to help you understand that there's something wrong. How many of us didn't understand we were doing wrong until we ran completely into the brick wall? Right? Thank God for the brick wall, because if we didn't, we would have gone right off the cliff. So he does it out of love to show you that there is something wrong in your life and it's going to manifest in your body. Right? So as he pulls out his hand, he knows this is death. And then he says, put it back, and then it's complete healing. So what is God trying to tell him?
To take him at his word and believe what he says.
That part. Later on we see a story with Miriam come out. She goes up, and Miriam and Aaron go against Moses regarding his wife, and she gets struck down with leprosy, but she's healed at the same time because she said her skin is as white as snow. God says, if she did not insult her father, would she not be put out of camp for a couple of days? Absolutely. She's been healed, it's fine, but he was coming up against God's anointing. He was coming up against God's plan. Yes? Okay? So it's almost as if they sort of had this understanding that this is what happens when you go against God. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why when he throws down a staff does it turn into a snake for the elders, but not so much for the Pharaoh? What does a snake got to represent for a Jewish person? Right? Deception. You have been deceived. If you think this is your life, it's about slavery, and this is what you are born to do, let me help you understand something. I'm going to take that slavery, that deception out. I'm going to remove that deception to help you understand what's coming. Okay? So, he goes in and he's going to take them with him. Moses makes the other excuse. He says, I'm a terrible speaker. The word is actually heavy speaker. I have a heavy mouth. Okay? If I have a heavy mouth, he says we translate it sometimes as we stutter. What is that going to do with anything? After the disco night stop. Alright? What is he's making an excuse that he can't speak? Was he not trained as Pharaoh's son? Do you think he was able to speak?
Yes. Isn't it because he actually grew up more, most of his life as an Egyptian, that he really didn't speak Hebrew that well?
More likely. More likely that he says, when you go to the elders and they ask you who sent you, say, the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Listen, you Egyptian, what do you know about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Who are you to tell us about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Well, you grew up in palace, where you studied with Pharaoh. And then all of a sudden we have this complete confusion of identity. From their perspective, he's a deserter. From his perspective, I try to save my people, I killed a guy, I ran for my life, now what do you want from me? Very different viewpoint. And God's getting him to say, look, you were trained up, my boy. Maybe he spoke slowly, but I think it's probably more likely that he probably struggled with the normal dialect. He comes up and he continues to make excuses, and we know the story. God eventually gets him, and he sends him Aaron, and he says, get up and go. I love the last excuse. It's fantastic. Send anybody but me. The Vincent paraphrase version. Do what you want to do, Lord. I'm sending you. Do anything but that. He says, I've sent Aaron with you. Isn't it interesting that when Yeshua sent his disciples out, he sent them out 2 by 2, and here you see 2 go out. What will they do? They're going to show the world who God is. It becomes the point of the plagues. Alright. I want you to fast forward to around Exodus 7. Now, what we can do is we can break this up. I really want to get to the Pesach part because I believe that's the point of this whole message. If we jump down with me to 7:17. God already preempts that Pharaoh is going to be hard-hearted. He's not going to let the people go. Moses understands that this is going to be difficult. But he gives them a point. Okay? What does 7 verse 17 say? Say again? Starts to turn then. Okay? Right. Slightly different translation. Let me read from 14 up so we get everything. Adonai said to Moshe, Pharaoh is stubborn, he refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning when he goes out into the water. Okay, let's just stop there. What is he doing out by the water? Bathing. So Pharaoh needed to go bath in the Nile. He didn't have a bath in his house. Worshipping. Right. The Nile was a god. So we see him in our Gentile mindset with shampoo and some soap. Can you imagine the king of the country having a public bath? Yeah? Oh yeah, even, great. Our deity. Go out and sit there and goes, don't mind me, boys and girls, I'll be with you in just a moment, just to carry on as usual.
But associated with Nile is life.
Absolutely.
And life is in the blood.
Yes, but again, it's act of worship, right? So he goes out, and he stands in the water. He says, stand on the riverbank and confront him, taking your hand the staff which turned into a snake. The God of the Hebrews said, and say to him, Adonai, the God of the Hebrews sent me to you to say, let my people go so that they can worship me in the desert. But until now you haven't listened. So Adonai says, okay, let's backtrack. What sign are we missing? What did he do? Until now you haven't listened. What did he show him? Right, the word there for staff is not, or snake is not actually snake. A serpent. Associated with what? Okay. Alright, the Hebrew word for snake is nachash. The word that they use here is tanin. T-A-N-N-I-N. We see it before. We think it could be a crocodile. It makes logical sense as a crocodile when you understand Egyptian mindset. Probably not, more mythical. I think God is straight to the point for me. A crocodile in context makes more sense. Okay? Why do I say that? Because the crocodile was seen as the protector of Pharaoh. Okay? This deity protects this deity. And what God is saying, I am removing your protection. His staff didn't become a nachash, it became a tanin. And it ate all the other ones. So he's saying, who is your protector, Pharaoh? What is Pharaoh trusting in? He's God's to save him, to provide for him. He's a deity himself who can question him. And God is, as he always does, gives an opportunity for teshuvah. He wants to bring Pharaoh into repentance. He wants to bring Pharaoh into understanding. He wants to bring Pharaoh into the right household. He said, the Pharaoh before, with Joseph, understood who I was. You have forgotten, let me show you. And he goes through this process of poking Pharaoh and Egypt. Remember, he's dealing not only with Moses here. Not only is he dealing with Moses and Aaron, but he's also dealing with Egypt. He's dealing with Egypt through Pharaoh, and he's dealing with the Hebrews through Pharaoh and Egypt. You see, when God is busy teaching you about stuff, other people are watching. When you're blessed and you say, Baruch Hashem, it's because God is with me. What does the world see? There's nothing special. Why did he get that? Lucky, but listen to what he's saying. It's all about God. He says it's his God that has been with you. The reason you survived, Baruch Hashem, another week. And it's time and time again that we give accountability for what we have because of God. And he's testing them. What you're trusting in isn't real. Now let's just get this straight. This is one of the biggest acts of love you will ever see in the Bible. I'm going to a pagan nation who's oppressing my people, who's using them as slaves, who's downright abusive in beating everything and everyone. They believe in anything else except for me. I think it's time I show them who I am. Now for most of us it would have been lightning bolts and a little bit of a couple of slaps, and that would have been the end of Egypt. But for God was like, these are my children too, they just don't see me. He's the creator of every man. Mankind belongs to him. He says, I'm glad you like the sun, my boys, but it's not a God. I'm glad you like the Nile, but it's not a God. I created that for you. Don't get confused between the creation and the creator. And they have that. And they're missing it. So he challenges them. Okay? And then we start talking about the plagues. When did I start? 16. Somebody. And they say to him, Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you to say. Let's pause there. What does he say, God of Hebrews? Right? No, he said the God is when guys listen, we today get very cautious about saying the word God. Can't say God because we don't know which one we're talking about. Scripturally, that's always the Elohim of. The emphasis has always been it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You cannot get confused. That is a title used for him. Okay? The fact that we live in a society that everything now is OMG and this and that, and they just want to plaster it all off, and they don't even understand why they're trying, why they say things like that. Have you noticed that people only try to profane the holy? When people bump their toe, and they're atheist or they don't believe or they're not a Christian, who are the first names that jump out of people's mouth? JC, right? I wonder why they don't shout Buddha when they bump their toe. Oh, Buddha, that was terrible. I can't believe I did that.
Muhammad.
No, or any other pagan deity, or any other deity that's out there that they want to claim to. Why is that Hasatan is trying to push you away from the only truth? You see, he tries to fake it and make it null and void, and he just tries to, until it becomes a saying instead of a person, and you don't even realize what you're saying. It's a funny thing. But he says, not the God of Israel, not the God of Jacob. Here he says the God of the Hebrews. That should tell you something. What is a Hebrew? Right, where do we see it? An Ivri. Who was the first Ivri? Abraham. So from Abraham, you need to cross over. He says he crossed over. Isaac crossed over. Jacob crossed over. Crossed over from what? From the world to belong to me. And he says the God of the Hebrews, he sent it for me to you to say. It's a very personal title. Guys, you said, some of you have been saying, we're the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Have you crossed over? Or is he challenging them again, saying, are you so Egyptian you forgot where you come from? To be true sons of Abraham. Have you left the world? Have you left Egypt? Are you Egypt here and here, or is it just physical? For the most part, we keep Egypt around us and in us. We've said it before, we say it again. All of these miracles that got them out of Egypt wasn't the difficult part for God. He took his finger and he shook some things around, he shook heaven and earth, and he got them all to pay attention, and he got them out. But he spent the next 40 years trying to get Egypt out of them. Let me put it to you in a way you normally understand. Just because you get to the process when you decide you want to be baptized, you want to be mikvah, Does that mean you stop sinning? No. Does that mean you're more sensitive to sin and you realize how much you need Mashiach? Yes. Does that mean you can overcome sin now? Yes. Why? Because the sins you were committing when you first came in here are not the sins you're committing now, God willing. You overcame your sins and you're getting stronger and you're learning more and you're growing. And all of a sudden the stuff in the beginning wasn't really, you don't even think about it now. You know, think about it. When most of you came in here and I told you you had to use Shabbat is something applicable, how many of you really struggle with the idea of not doing what you want to do from Friday night to Saturday night? Pretty much everybody. And now all of a sudden you come in here and you're saying Shabbat Shalom and you're so happy it's Sabbath because you don't have to do all the stuff you want to do when you have it going on about. It's like crash landing in on a Friday night. You come in limping from the week you've just had. And now all of a sudden keeping Shabbat is no longer a burden but a delight. Well, isn't that a strange thing? You overcame. Right? And you start to go through this process of changing. But the simple fact of the matter is, every time God highlights something new, you have to continue to choose to overcome that sin instead of being dragged back by it. You continually go through a process of making a choice. Am I going to follow after God and leave Egypt behind? Or am I going to drag a little bit of Egypt with me every time I go? We get very comfortable with our sins and ourselves and the way we act when no one's looking, or when we think we can get away with it, or sometimes when we just go, it is what it is. I've had the most delightful conversations with people when they're saying, look, this is a problem. God said this is a problem, and they go, well, it is what it is. Yes, it's sin, and you're saying it's okay. I'm here to tell you that it's not. And I'm not trying to judge you, I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to help you. Because if you don't let go of that big thing that you're swinging around, it's eventually going to hit you in the head. And then what happens? God has to pick up the pieces. And then we cry out. Why did they hurt me? I told you that was going to hurt you long before you did it. Don't stick your finger in the plug. But my finger's the perfect size. Doesn't mean it's a good idea. And we go through that process. So he's doing this with Pharaoh. Right? He says, let my people go so they can worship in the desert, but until now you haven't listened. So Adonai says, this will let you know that I am Adonai. I want you to support that. You see that theme running throughout, but this becomes the theme for me for the first 3 plagues. You will know that I am the Yud-He Vav-He. Now remember what that means in context. The name of God, if you listen to the teaching we did, means what? Its function. I was, I am, and I will be. Forever. Okay? Haya, Behove, Behavo. Remember the song Kadosh? He uses the same thing in Revelations. I was, I am, will forever be. And he says, this is what you need to understand. I was with Abraham, I'm here now, and I'm going to be God long past the time where you are no longer Pharaoh. You're thinking you're preparing for the afterlife, but I'm the only thing that's eternal. Let me talk to you. It's a big statement. Pharaoh misses it. Says, I will take the staff in my hand and strike the water with a river, and it will be turned to blood. The fish in the river will die, and the river will stink. And the Egyptians won't want to drink from the water. Adonai said to Moshe, said to Aaron, take your staff, reach out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the rivers, canals, ponds, and all of the reservoirs, so that they can turn into blood. There will be blood throughout the whole land of Egypt, even in the wooden buckets and the stone jars. Now, how many of you have watched the National Geographic Bible study thing where they equate the water turning to red it's a red algae? Right. And they say, look guys, it was just a natural thing that happened. Everything turned red. It wasn't actual blood. Explain to me how it got inside the houses. Oh no, we forgot about that verse.
How can the Egyptians do blood?
Yeah, and why? And in the algae, well, they say the algae killed the fishes, but you know, in antiquity, they were superstitious, so it was red, so they equated it to blood, and the guy just went with the legend. No. It says even in the houses, even in the water that was stored up in the houses, it went from clear to blood. Now, before I carry on, you help a bit. I want you to write down, you just write down the different plates with the God on that side. Alright, multitasking. Don't worry about Nick, we'll get to what he's dealing with now. Okay? So why would God choose that? A Nile to blood.
Well, two parts. One, when Pharaoh used the Nile to throw the baby Hebrew boys in, and two, to show them that the Nile was like God to the people.
Right. Okay, so the first point was Pharaoh had no regard for the life of the children, the little boys that tried to be killed. Remember, this is a very personal plague to Moses. How did Moses survive? In a basket covered in pitch or tar, and he was lifted above the waters. Where else do we see that picture? Noah. That word for pitch and tar is literally called the covering, or we use the same word for atonement. So that through the lifting up above the chaos and above death, you will be saved. And they go through, and the protector of Pharaoh that was supposed to eat all the children, the crocodile, somehow managed to miss one. And he puts Moses right in the house. And he gets looked after, he gets fed, he goes through all these wonderful moments and training and all the rest of it. The second part is, like Shawnee said, if the Nile is a god, are you trusting in the Nile? Egypt did. It is one of the things that gave them economic stability. Every so often the Nile floods its banks by 2 or 3 or maybe 5 meters. All of the minerals in the water sink down into the sand, it comes back, and then all of a sudden we've got fertilized soil, fantastic crops, and it's great. Live it because it's constant.
I think it's, to understand it a bit better, not just that it's God, it's the life and blood of Osiris.
Yes, we get into that.
And then to be turned to blood and kills everything, it defeats the point of what they were issuing for.
Absolutely. So that which is supposed to be life is death. So what's God saying?
Was the birth of the fertility God?
Well, a lot of them were about fertility. Yes, right. Remember, everything was about fertility. It's what I could get from my deity, not what I could give to my deity. Okay, why do you worship him now? Because he gives me stuff. And if I don't, I'm scared he's going to take his stuff away. Yes?
That's the problem with idolatry. You keep on thinking it's your life plan.
Yeah. It's funny, there's religion organizations today
Mm.
I mean, one that seems to be very close to us, Islam. Why do they pray 3 times a day? Fear of death. I'm petitioning the entire time. That's the only reason. There's nowhere in the Quran where it talks about love. He's a judge, God. Fake deity that's going to destroy you if you don't. So, we try to keep him happy because we want to get to the end part. It's a problem. Because when we look at the different stories, our God loves us so much that He died to get us to the end part. This one demands that we, let me not go into the full demand statement.
Basically, it's the living sacrifice for us, and then we have to die to get it.
Yeah. For them, it's about taking life that will get you there. Anyway, let's move on. Cherry topic. Alright, so the blood is in their houses. Moses and Aaron did exactly what Adonai had ordered. He raised the staff in the sight of Pharaoh and his servants, and he struck the waters in the river. All the waters in the river turned to blood. The fish in the river died, and the river stank so badly that the Egyptians couldn't drink its water. There was blood throughout the land of Egypt. It wasn't just one place, it was everywhere. And remember, God says it's stinky. Why would He say it's stinky? Not only there's death, but again, remember when He talks about His sacrificial system, He says there's a sweet aroma. You see, the heart of the offering is what I like. That's the incense. That's the petition, it's the prayer that goes up. It smells beautiful to me, like a perfume. Here, what do I smell? Death. So that what you think is going to save you is nothing but death to me. I'm looking at it for what it is. It's a beautiful river, God made it. But from a spiritual perspective, He's trying to show Egypt that they're only trusting in weapons. It's only going to get you dead. But the magicians of Egypt, they did the same thing with their secret arts. Let's pause. We're going to see this replication of miracle. Right? Not just once, but twice, 3 times. They did it with the snake, they do it with the Nile, right? They do it with frogs. And the problem with that is they never reverse it. So let's just think about this for a second. In the portion it talks about them digging around next to the Nile, and God allows them to find fresh water. So even in His judgment, He said there's mercy. I don't want to kill you, I want to change you, I want to save you. So He gives them fresh water. And they dig, and what do? They turn the same thing into blood. Like, you're a no-no, what are we supposed to drink now? Thanks very much for destroying the little bit of water we had. Right? They don't think this through. Number 1. Number 2, who gave them the power to do that? Right. It's the enemy. Satan comes in, remember, they're worshipping pagan deities. They're doing all types of miraculous things. God is showing them that He's stronger than their secret arts. In Ephesians, we'll talk about the powers and the principalities if we get into it. You're dealing with a deception. You're dealing with death, and you don't even know which God you're worshipping. You're definitely not worshipping me, so where are you getting your authority? Where are you getting your power from? If you find yourself fighting God to hold on to your spiritual experience, take stock. Listen to me carefully. We have too many of us that are dealing with spiritual experiences that contradict the Word of God. If they contradict the Word of God, whose spirit did you experience? I heard a voice, okay? What did the voice say? Shoot your brother. I listened. God told me to do it. How do you know it was God? I don't know. It was a supernatural voice. You do realize that angels can speak too. how do you know? Will God tell you to do something that will contradict His word? I don't know how many stories I've heard where God has told a specific person, and I'm not trying to make light of this, please understand, I'm warning you. They will have a dream, or they will have a vision, or they will have this, and they don't test it. God told me it was okay to leave my husband and commit adultery with that other person. Oh, that sounds like God, doesn't it? No. Let's pick up the pieces and let's take it back. The second part is sometimes God will talk using an illustration that is pertinent for you, and you will misunderstand Him. We broad stroke it. In Acts 10, Peter gets given the vision. If you didn't know your Bible, if Peter didn't know his Bible, he sees all these unclean animals come out, and God tells him, arise, Peter, take up and eat. He tells him 3 times. Well, if you were in most Christian circles, you would be telling Peter he's in rebellion. God told you it's fine. You can eat whatever you want. Carry on reading. Next couple of verses, he says he was still struggling, puzzling over the vision. This can't mean I can eat whatever I want because God said it's there and His Torah is forever. So what then? Later on he deals with Romans. Roman centurion. Declared by Jews and sages and different sects that if you go in there, it's like going into the gates of hell itself. They are pagan, they eat fraud things, they do fraud things, you don't go anywhere near them. Stay on the other side, so they clean the person unclean, not the action unclean. You are completely broken, you can't be saved. And this was a revolutionary idea when Peter saw the Holy Spirit being poured out on a God-fearing Gentile. The first time the Holy Spirit is poured out on a Gentile, the same way it got poured out in Acts 2.
Remember, the second part, because the prophet is Nathan.
Not the same.
It's a Gentile.
Not the same. We're talking about the great outpouring thereof. And Nathan is generally a Krishna. But I'm not going to split this. But remember the great outpouring. Although we've had moments where the Holy Spirit has touched individuals to do work, Peter likens the experience, what he saw, to not only poured out on Cornelius, but on his entire household. He says, how can I deny what he did for us? The same way it was poured out at the temple steps is what I saw there. Now, if he never tested it, we would have scriptures in our Bible that says we can contradict whatever God said. And if God changes His mind, we're in a lot of trouble. Because today you find, tomorrow maybe not. Are you guys with me? Alright. Okay. Alright, so with this secret arts, Pharaoh made them hard-hearted and listened. Pharaoh was made hard-hearted and didn't listen to them. As Adonai said would happen, Pharaoh just turned and went back to his palace and without taking any heed of it. The Egyptians dug around the river for water to drink because they couldn't drink the river anymore. 7 days after Adonai struck the river, Adonai said to Moshe, go to Pharaoh and say to him, here is what Adonai says, let my people go so that they can worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will strike all your territory with frogs. The river will swarm with frogs and they will go up and enter your palaces and into your bedroom and onto your bed. They will enter the houses of the servants and to the people. They will go into the ovens and the kneading bowls. The frogs will climb all over you, your people and your servants. That's nice. What's so terrible about that? Frogs? Right? Well, possibly.
There's also one of the odds that if you even stepped on a frog, you could be put to death.
Right?
It would be hard to dodge a frog if they were just away.
It would be very difficult to get away from it. Listen to it, God is in the details. Adonai said to Moshe, say to Aaron, reach out your hand with your staff over your rivers, canals, ponds, and cause the frogs to come up out of the land of Egypt. Aaron put his hand over the waters. Notice, Moses does some miracles. Aaron does some miracles. Some is used with a staff, some is used with a hand. What is God trying to tell you? It's not the staff, it's not Moses, it's not Aaron, it's not their hands, it's him. Okay? So this wasn't a magic staff that was doing everything.
Can I just ask, I'm a little bit confused when he says the frogs will travel over you, your people, and your servants. Were the servants not Jewish people?
Yeah, it was
So why were
originally
they
like
being
that.
punished?
No, they're being taught. Remember, they're as Egyptian as the Egyptians.
Okay.
So they need to understand it from the perspective as well. Okay, so he's reaching out. Remember the point of the first 3 plagues? I am Yahweh. Who's your God? Is it Pharaoh or is it me? So he's going to challenge them to show them there's something. Okay? The frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt, but the magicians did the same with their secret arts and brought the frogs onto the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and said, intercede with Adonai to take the frogs away from me and my people, and I will let the people go and sacrifice to Adonai. Moses said to Pharaoh, not only that, but you can have the honor of naming the time when I will pray for you. He says, fantastic, it's done, you got the message, let's go. Tell me when I need to make a start. Pharaoh, just you tell me. I'll pray on your behalf. Don't stress about this. Your servants and your people to be rid of the frogs, both you yourselves and your homes, and that they only say in the river. He answered, tomorrow, Moshe. Tomorrow? This confuses me. I don't know why I wanted another day of frogs. It's like, no, we're having such a good time. Please, another 24 hours. Moshe said, it will be as you have said, no argument. And from this you will learn that Adonai the God has no equal. That will come again later. The frogs will leave you in your homes, also your servants and your people, and they will stay in the rivers only. And Moshe and Aaron left Pharaoh's presence. And Moshe cried to Adonai about the frogs he had brought on Pharaoh. Adonai did as Moshe had asked. The frogs died in the houses, the courtyards, and the fields. They gathered them in heaps until the land stank. Wouldn't it have been easier for God to just send the frogs back to the river? So why do they die and the Egyptians live? Right. The third lady, or the goddess, was the goddess of resurrection. Afterlife. And now your land is filled again with the stench of there's no life for you here unless you come with me. Right? Please, one table.
Just thinking of, Pharaoh saying tomorrow, and he was trying to buy time for his magicians to see if he can make this.
Quite possible. Quite possible. But when Pharaoh saw that he had been given some relief, he made himself hard-hearted and would not listen to them. Please pause. How many of you have pulled a Pharaoh? Oh, please just help us. We just need 1,000 rand to get through the month. If you get 1,000 rand, you're like, I don't need God anymore. I got 1,000 rand. Next month, we need 2,000 rand. Should we pray to not get to the point of overlooking your God when He's trying to get you to look at Him? God's got 2 agendas, right? I'm simplifying this ridiculously, but 2 main agendas. One, to get you to look at Him. This is where salvation is, this is what you need, and this is what I need you to focus on. Look at Daddy. Okay? The second part of that agenda is to keep your eyes focused on Him. many of us get into that mode of, oh, thank you, Father, you're so gracious, you love me so much, and you praise Him for 5 minutes, maybe a week, 3 weeks. I'm going to spend extra time with you because you're so good to me. And then you go back to doing what you were doing before, and you start to ignore your relationship with Him, and you start to spend time in everything else but, or something new and fancy, or some person new and fancy, or some new job, some new car, some new whatever. All of a sudden, God's been put on the back burner again. So He moves situations around to get you to remember. He does that because He wants to save you. He does that because He loves you. He didn't send prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet because He hated the people. He did it to save them. How many times must God Himself intervene in your life before you take Him seriously? Pharaoh made himself hard-hearted and he would not listen to them, just as Adonai had said would happen. Adonai said to Moshe, say to Aaron, reach out with your staff and strike the dust on the ground. What's the word for dust? Adamah. Why is that important? Right. The word back into creation. Just like Tanin, we take it back to the 5th day of creation. Why would you use that? Oh, you thought this was all about you. No, I created these things like a while ago, but you need to catch up. Yeah, he goes, remember, when was man created? On the 6th day. Interesting. So he starts off his plagues on the 5th day of creation story, making Tanin. It's part of it's the same word they choose. And yeah, he goes, let's deal with you in your Adamah. Adamah is where we get the term Adam from. And where we get the term Lam. Also comes from interesting place. Edom or Edam comes from a root word that means red. Lam means blood. Adam means man. Adamah means soil or dust. So there is an interesting play. Who are you? Pharaoh. I was born of the offspring of Ra and Maywood. You're just a man. I love you. You're just a man. Many times we get into the place of delusions of grandeur. Don't you love it when you get into that mindset when you think people are watching you so carefully? That you're scared that you might, if you say something or do something. Let me ask you this. When you first started to keep Shabbat, was one of your questions, what are the people going to think? Eating kosher, wearing tzitzit. We all go through it as if the entire world is going to turn around and notice because you've now decided to say no to pork. And the world will stop spinning. And then you realize they don't really care. Every now and again they might have a comment and they're like, why don't you go to the shops on Saturday? Shabbat. That's good. And then they just, yeah, okay, whatever. Most of the time they just don't want to ask because they're scared you're going to actually respond. This is why I do it. No, I didn't really want to know. I thought I was being polite. We get into this place where we think it's about us. Now, if you get put up into a place of authority and power, and you get told the whole time, you are a God, you are a God, you are a God, act like one. Pharaoh's been puffed up by those around him, and he's walking around in shoes that he created, and that were created for him, and he's saying, God's sitting over there, you're a man, sit down. Let me do the God stuff, you do the man stuff. I created the whole relationship so that you could be man and I can be God. It's a good thing, it works. How do you know? Because I created it that way. It's the only way it works. There can't be two gods here, but I am the one who knows what's right and wrong. I'm the one that's going to get you there. How many of you have burnt your fingers trying to turn your own steering wheel of your own life and realize you can't play God? I know exactly what's going to happen 5 minutes later. Never saw that coming. And he just proves the point time and time again that you just can't do this. And he's not trying to be mean, he's trying to save you from yourself. Your plans are not his plans. Thank God, because if it was up to us, we would be destroying ourselves continually. Right? He's doing it his way to get the best fruit. And it's not just about you, it's about the people that are watching you. And it's not just about them, it's about the nation that's watching. There's so much going on.
Because if Pharaoh did actually surrender, then the whole world would have
Pay
taken
attention.
note. So if it, God said that he wasn't you.
Right.
But if he did, it would have changed things. So it's God's a little bit, you're always not sure why God even tries with us when he knows how we're going to respond.
Well, he still gives you the opportunity to respond. He wants you to respond a certain way. It's like giving a kid a crayon and saying, don't draw on the wall that he loves, there's some paper. I'm really hoping you probably are, but I'm really hoping you don't. But I don't know to trust you with what I give you. I need you to understand responsibility, I need you to understand consequences. One of the good things about raising them, we get given free will. We can use it to glorify God, or we can use it to burn our fingers. Alright, I see we're having so much fun, it's already 1 o'clock. You guys got 10 minutes? Alright, we started a bit late, so let's get the hour in. Where are we? Where's that amount?
16.
The last.
Alright, yeah, I'm just trying to think because the computer is just slightly different. Okay. So reach out with your staff and strike the dust on the ground. It will become lice throughout the land of Egypt. Interesting choice. Where does lice normally sit? In your hair. Do Egyptians like body hair? No, they don't. They shave themselves completely. That's why they didn't recognize Joseph. Imagine these big, hairy Hebrew guys, and then the Egyptians, a stark contrast of this is the way we want to look and this is the way you're actually made to look. They felt them as dirty and they didn't want to be like them, and he says, well, you just dust, my boy, don't think that you're any different from your slaves. They did it. Aaron reached out his hand with his staff and he struck on the dust of the ground, and there was lice on the people and the animals, and the dust on the ground became like lice throughout the whole land of Egypt. The magicians tried with their secret arts to produce lice, but they couldn't. There was lice on people and animals. Then the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. I love that verse. Man, when you've been so busy trusting in your dark arts and you don't even know where the power is coming from, but you know when you can't do something, that this is the finger of God. Now that's a Hebraic idiom for what? For the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. And he takes you back to creation again. Without that Ruach HaKodesh, without the Holy Spirit breathing into a dust bowl, you would never form. He took soil and he went, and out you came. And each time he's trying to point him back, trying to push them back. Ivri, remember the stories of Abraham. Egypt, trying to remember where you came from. Holy Spirit was there from the beginning. But Pharaoh was made hard-hearted so that he didn't listen to them, just as Adonai said would happen. Adonai said to Moses, get up early in the morning, stand before Pharaoh when he goes out to the water, and Yahweh again at the water, and says to them, here is what Adonai says, let my people go, so that they can worship me. Otherwise, if you won't let my people go, I will send swarms of insects on you, your servants, your people, and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of swarms of insects, and likewise on the ground they stand on. But I will set the land of Goshen, where my people live, I will set apart, the land of Goshen. So here he says, Hebrews, do I have your attention? Now let me show you this is not just some weird natural phenomenon. I'm going to put a border and a little separation around you. Why are they in Goshen? Right, remember Joseph gave them the advice. He says, ask for Goshen because you're shepherds. And you are abhorrent in the sight. You smell funny. You stink in the sight of. Think of the Nile and think of the frogs. There's these Hebrew words that keep popping up that remind you of the story of Joseph. You've forgotten Joseph, Pharaoh. Says, you don't let those stinky sheepherders and that come near us. Put them in Goshen, it's fine. Because that's the best place for cattle. But Goshen was not exactly just a place of arrogance. It was beautiful and it was lush. He looked after Pharaoh's flocks there as well. So they were separate from the main cities. Why would they do that? So even though you're in Egypt, you're not in Egypt. You get what I'm saying? Just because you're in the world doesn't mean you have to be part of it. Don't think that when you come in here, you have to assimilate to them. Don't act like the world. The reason I saved you, the reason I chose you, the reason I'm reforming you, so that you act different. Is that easy? No. Because they don't understand you, they don't understand where you come from, they don't see what you see, they don't understand why you care so much about this weird, fictitious God that they don't understand. Remember where you were when someone told you about this big man in the sky. I love the different illustrations we use to try and capture God. There's someone up there holding everything together and he's going to listen to your prayers. Why, mommy? Because he loves you. Did you have any clue what that actually meant? Until you have an intimate moment with God, did you?
You have the ear of the most powerful being in the whole universe.
You don't understand. We never did until you have a moment with Him and then you realize that it's not just some story, that He actually exists. And then all of a sudden you start to act differently because there's this realization. So He sets him apart. He says, no swarms of insects will go there so that you can realize that I am Adonai right here in the land. Yes, I will distinguish between my people and your people, and the sign will happen by tomorrow. That section sums up the next 3 plagues for me. Right? So, up until this point, we've had the mild frogs and the lice and the gnats. Now we've got the insects, the livestock, and the birds. God will make a distinction between Goshen and those who listen and those who don't. And He will separate them and say, we'll go from there. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said to them, go and sacrifice to your God here in the land. But Moses replied, it would be inappropriate for us to do so because the animal we sacrifice to Adonai our God is an abomination to the Egyptians. Is the animal abomination or the act of sacrificing the animal abomination? The act. Right, when you go, do yourself a favor. Go look on Google for pictures of the temple of Karnak.
Spell it?
Karnak, sometimes spelled like this, sometimes spelled with a K. Karnak, okay? Look, it's an ancient city, ruins today that you can still go visit. When you walk in, they've got sculptures of rams as you walk through. Right? We're going to get to the cattle and the livestock and all those interesting things. No. But those were also different images of different gods. So here we are, it says sacrifice in the land. Why do you have to leave the land? And he says, yeah, sheepy. happy that we're slaughtering their deity. No. Is God going to be concerned that I'm more worried about their response than I am about worshipping Him? Oh. Think about that for a second. If I'm more worried about man's response than I am about true worship of God, does that hamper or help me worship? Stops. Sometimes dead in your tracks. I don't really want to explain why I do this, because if I do, they're going to think I'm weird. Don't know how to tell you this. You're unique just like everybody else. Everybody's weird in some strange form. Especially in this fellowship. You stuck with me.
Question, how does the random God who takes away the sin of the world tie into the Egyptians and the rams and sacrifice? There has to be symbolism.
Let's get to the New Testament, Old Testament links a little later. Okay? Alright. You guys can ponder upon that question. See what they represent, and let's go from there. Okay, do you guys have any questions up until this point? Alright. I think we're just going to finish this last little section here. Yeah. It would be inappropriate for us to do so. Okay, I read that part. Okay. Verse 23 in my Bible, might be 27 in yours. No, we will go 3 days journey into the desert and sacrifice to Adonai our God, as He has ordered us to do. Pharaoh said, I will let you go so that you can sacrifice to Adonai. Yes, am I reading right? Sacrifice to Adonai your God in the desert. Only you are not to go very far away. Intercede on my behalf. I'll let you go, but He's still trying to control the situation. Doesn't work. If you're controlling, that means that people can say you're still in control, and Pharaoh is clearly not. Moses said, all right, I'm going away from you, and I will intercede with Adonai. So that tomorrow the swarms of insects will leave Pharaoh, his servants, and his people, just to make sure that Pharaoh stops playing games with the people by preventing them from going and sacrificing to Adonai. Moses left Pharaoh and interceded with Adonai, and Adonai did what Moshe had asked. He removed the swarms of insects from Pharaoh, his servants, his people. Not one remained, but this time too Pharaoh made himself stubborn and didn't let the people go. So just quickly, the Nile, as Regan said, is the lifeblood, or the life, or the blood of Osiris himself. The frogs, the toad goddess of resurrection, the lice or the gnats, says, is part of Geb, the god of the earth, or soil and vegetation. Plague 4, the flies are the insects. Kefi, the symbol is a scarab, god of insects. So their mindset is that I'm appeasing these things so these things don't attack us. And now we have God saying, well, even they're trying to destroy you, don't you think? That's an interesting challenge that's going on. You guys will okay up until here? Alright, we'll pick it up next week. Alright, great time is every time.